call the meeting
Just
to
before I
order.
go home.
Sounds good.
Let's call on
See
the
what time we get done.
Let's do it. Yeah,
Public
depending on
Works
what
and Successor Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Sustainability,
drink
not
or whatever,
succession.
Commissioner Arata, absent. Commissioner Bajaj,
Present.
Commissioner Furubashi,
Here.
Commissioner Nafisi,
Here.
Commissioner Glass,
Here.
Commissioner Min, absent. Chair Simpson.
I am here. Oh, I guess we need to salute to the flag.
Yeah, let's do that.
Commissioner Bajaj, can you lead us, please?
Certainly. All right, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approve the order of the agenda. Wouldn't someone like to make a motion to do that?
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Glass, second.
Second?
Commissioner Funabashi, seconds. All those in favor, I think we knew this by voice. Do we have public comment on that? I don't think we do. Can we do it by voice vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like it's approved. Blue folder items, do we have some?
We do.
We do. We had one blue folder item that was emailed previously to you for item J1.
It was emailed to us?
It was
When?
at 3:30 this,
I did receive it this afternoon, and I see that the email from the sender was actually yesterday. Sunday,
There it is, okay.
so there it is.
Yeah, 3:30 this afternoon, okay. So we need to have a motion to receive and file, I guess? The blue folder? The blue folder?
I'll make a motion to receive the blue
Funabashi
folder
makes that
item.
motion, is there a second? Commissioner Glass seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that's been added. Consent calendar does not look like we have very much on it. Appears to be just the affidavit of posting. We wouldn't probably be discussing the minutes or anything like that, so that's the only, do we have a motion to, do we have any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing no public comment, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Commissioner Nafisi makes that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bajaj seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, it's now that point in the agenda where we ask for the public to make any comments on items that are not on the agenda. Does anyone care to address the commission with items that are not on the agenda? Yes. Okay, please come up to the.
I'm Josh Rogers. I worked with, I guess through email with Public Works Commissioner Nafisi. I'm trying to get a four-way stop sign at the corner of Clark and Goodman and Clark and Stanford, which is very close to Prospect and Aviation. You recently approved a four-way stop sign at Steinhardt and Clark and Marshall Field and Stanford. And I don't know if you guys recall those. Anyone?
I'm not sure they may have been just done by city council. We did one.
Oh, I was under the assumption I'm going through the same process, trying to get it on the agenda.
Right.
But bottom line is, I did give a request to the traffic engineering department, and Commissioner Nafisi was copied on that from me with the pictures and some videos to show that there's some concern. It's been there for years. But the thing is, it's on a hill. After people maybe go to the beach, they come down, they run the stop sign. There's two stop signs. And the problem is the stop signs are on the east and west, but not the north and south. So the problem is they're just running them and the cars can't see them. That's just one issue. The other issue is if you're in a car, because it's on a hill, you can't see traffic coming from opposing areas to the left and right of you. I have pictures, I have videos if you want to see them. But I put the request in on May 10th, and I'm just here at the request of Commissioner Nafisi to try and get this on the agenda. So I'm just trying to check a box off.
I think staff is probably working on that request.
We are, and Chairperson, as much as we can't really discuss public comment on non-agenda items, we can confirm that, yes, we are in receipt of that, and we do have staff working on it.
Okay, so what's the next step?
We'll get the recommendation from staff after they've looked at it, then it comes to us, and we make a recommendation to do it or not do it, and I guess that would be the way it works.
Okay, but you're going to look at the comparables of the two other,
Yeah, we'll discuss that offline because we can't really discuss that right now.
Yeah.
like I said.
Not on the agenda, but.
I don't know the
yeah.
process. I was here trying to get on the agenda.
Doing it right. You're doing it right.
Fine, and
It's in the
Anything
right
else,
hands.
or are we good? What's the timing? What's the lead time? And is there
Again,
anything else that I have to do?
There's nothing else you can do at
All
this
right.
time.
Okay.
All right, back to the liquor.
All right. Thank you. So, well, we accept this blue part, I guess no items continued from previous agendas. We're for J1 right now, which is the request of red curb installation at the 2600 block of Carnegie Lane. I suspect there's a presentation.
I'm going to give it to Selah. No, I'm sorry. Chairperson Simpson, yeah, I actually have the honor of presenting this to you.
I
And we do
understand
have a
someone's on
present-
vacation.
Yes, he is. We do have a presentation for you, so Lauren, if you have that pulled up, that would be great.
Okay, so if I do hit this,
So just to start,
If I'm, gang, I was just able to pull up the presentation from a link through it.
you are, or are you actually
I'm
looking
looking
at?
at, I'm looking at the printed on my computer screen right
yeah,
now.
where do you get it?
Okay,
Within the agenda, I clicked on the item number, and then you'll see administrative report, notification letter, and PowerPoint presentation.
Yes,
Now, that's-
it is an attachment.
yes, it is an attachment, it is available, but you have no control over that. So we are going to be working through those slides and advancing them.
Okay,
Feel free to watch it if you want, but you're going to have to keep up with us when we say advance to the next slide.
gotcha.
So just to start it off, we just want to let you know that there have been notices that were sent to the residents all along the 2600 block of Carnegie last Thursday, so that they are aware of the discussion and presentation tonight. Next slide, please. No, sorry, go back one slide. Thank you. The request for the red curb was received from District 4 Council member. It's for the installation of the red curb at 2606 Carnegie Lane. The request was to accommodate vehicles that are entering and exiting the property across the street at 2607 Carnegie Lane. Next, please. This map shows all the existing curbs that are within the block. I know it's not very descriptive, nor does it have any actual distances for you or lengths, but is to depict that there are red curb markings along that block, and they are typically requested by the residents, and they go through the process that we're going through tonight. Carnegie Lane is an eastbound only one-way street. It is 28 feet wide with parking allowed on both sides of the street. Its land uses are both single-family and multifamily residential with a corresponding speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Curb markings, sorry, go to the next slide, please. Making the curb, sorry. Because of all the land uses that are there, it actually makes the available curb parking quite in high demand, and it's a very valuable commodity. At the subject location, there is an existing amount of red curb. It is actually 3 feet of red curb. You can see it there on either side of the driveway to the west at 2604. But it does affect the curb area that's in front of 2606. So the subject location there also has a catch basin. It's at that cross gutter, which you see looks like a concrete swale that comes across. It's adjacent to that driveway, like we said, on 2604. Next slide, please. The remaining unmarked curb is approximately 14.8 feet. And we say that because it was a short enough distance for us to measure it accordingly. During our field investigation, we actually found a vehicle that was legally parked within the space. That vehicle length was approximately 14.3 feet. So the vehicle was not encroaching into the red curb on the west, nor was it encroaching into the driveway on the east. Next slide, please. There's full width sidewalk, and I say that for a couple of reasons. There's full width sidewalk on both sides of Carnegie Lane. It's about 5 feet wide. And the reason we say that is that sidewalk area is maneuverable space, if you will, that may allow vehicle tires to turn in and out of the driveways at the properties. The picture on the left represents a compact vehicle that can probably legally fit. It does look like it's legally fitting within that space. The picture on the right, that's a bigger four-door sedan. We only see it from street view on the backside where it doesn't look like it's encroaching on the red curb, but sort of knowing the vehicle length, that's probably encroaching into the driveway on the other side. When we were out, no, sorry, go back. When we were out in the field, we also assessed the ability of the vehicles that are turning in and out of the property across the street at 2607. In both entering, exiting, pulling in forward or pulling in backwards, we know sometimes it's more challenging with bigger vehicles to enter and or to exit in a forward or rearward location. Yet, if you back a large vehicle into a driveway, it makes it easier at a tighter spot sometimes to get out. What we observed out, and that was part of the reason why I was talking about the 5 feet of full width sidewalk that's there. It does give the wheel path a little extra space to maneuver. Well, you can also see that behind the black vehicle, there is that driveway at 2604 Carnegie Lane, which means if a driver was backing out of 2607 and they could not angle directly where the vehicle is currently parked today, they also have the driveway, and it's not as skewed as it looks on the street view, but they would be able to back the vehicle almost into that driveway on the opposite side of the street in order to clear their path going eastbound. Go ahead, next slide, please. So this essentially, it concludes our presentation. Based on staff's investigation and the high parking demand on the block, staff doesn't support the installation of the additional red curb to eliminate that existing or one parking space. As such, staff is going to be asking the commission to do one of three things: either deny the request to install the additional red curb, essentially supporting staff's recommendation, or recommend the installation of the red curb at this short location, or provide any other input that you may have. We are available for any questions that you may have for us, but also to note that the actions of the commission are appealable to the city council if they are done within 30 days. So whichever side of the equation this comes to, someone may appeal that decision to the city council if they choose to do so. That concludes my presentation for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the detailed analysis. Just right off the bat, I support staff's recommendation to deny the request. It doesn't seem like there's anything unique about this circumstance compared to, hundreds or possibly thousands of other driveways in the city. And as staff mentioned, the way it's angled and it's a one-way street, you're only really paying attention to one direction of traffic. I think there's a lot of maneuverability here. So just my personal initial thoughts are to support the staff recommendation.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Just the person requesting the red curb they're across the street from where they want the red curb to go, is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I want. And do they usually back into their driveway, do we know, or?
We don't know whether they are backing in or they're pulling in forward and having a challenge backing out of the driveway. But we assessed it from both directions, and we think the maneuverability is there.
But it probably would be better to back in and to make it easier getting out, wouldn't it? Isn't that the usual?
It would be for me if I owned a long wheelbase vehicle, yes.
Yes, yeah, okay, has anyone recommended that to the,
We have not, no,
Yeah,
not directly
okay.
to the complainant.
other question? Yes, Commissioner Glass.
Okay, can you put up the first slide that he showed, or the first photograph?
Can you please put the presentation back on the screen? Thank you.
That one right there.
Okay.
First of all, I want to say thanks for the good presentation, and I also concur with the recommendation from the staff. But I would like to point out that if those are in fact the red curbs that you've marked there are 5 violations right there. Look at them, count them. You know, and that shows the extent to which people are disregarding those markings, whether they're there or not. Okay, that's item 1. Item 2 is, 2 weeks ago, I had my house re-roofed, and I have it's tight to get a truck in, but these roofers got this enormous truck down my narrow driveway, and by sort of backing into the driveway across the street and then coming straight across and things like that. So I think, people will make it. And obviously, it's worked for a while. Maybe they would like to have it more convenient, but they're able to do it now. So I concur with the staff recommendation.
Okay, do we have any public comment besides the blue folder item?
No,
No e-comments?
there's 3 e-comments,
Okay.
and there's the one blue folder item that was emailed
The
separately.
e-comments are,
They're all, the 3 are in support of the red curb.
the 3 are in support.
Of the
And
installation.
the blue
the
folder item
installation.
was opposed.
They all, hold on, let me just. Yeah.
Is there a place where we can view the e-comments?
Right. If you go to the agenda on the redondo.org, there's the e-comments all the way to the right.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So just click on there, right there. Just right there.
This one?
And these are all the comments.
I get 3, okay. Support.
I actually just had a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the request came from home 2607?
Yes, through the council member, though. That's how we got it directly.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to concur with some of the express comments made thus far about agreeing with staff and denying the request. The one question I had is the red curb that we see on either side of the driveway apron. Not obviously at every driveway. What's the prerequisite, or how do those red markings on either side of a driveway come about? Is that a request from a homeowner who's has had challenges because of cars kind of impeding into that slot?
Yes, actually, our red curb policy allows a resident to request that from the city up to 3 feet.
3 feet, and that doesn't.
And that's something that we can implement on their behalf without having to go through a full-blown analysis.
Yes.
Anything more than that starts to impede into parking space that's available, then we take that into consideration. We bring it to you for review and consideration before we install. But we don't go out and install them unless there's a request from the resident of that particular property asking for it.
Sure, and then like you said, that rise, if you will, on the apron, I mean, that's a legal requirement that not be impeded by any parked car anyway, so you're just putting
That's
an
reminding
emphasis.
people.
It's just reminding people
It's
of
a
what the law
reminder,
is
exactly.
already, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just like to add
Glass,
something,
Commissioner
the red
Nafisi.
curb, besides being painted there, it's also marked with a little white marking from Public Works.
Correct,
It
yeah.
shows that it's an official one, and I haven't gone out,
Done it
bought a red
yourself.
can of spray paint
Which-
and done it myself.
Right, that's exactly right.
Love that little RVPW.
Yep.
Commissioner Nafisi, I think you have a question or comment?
So this resident couldn't make the request, obviously, for someone else's home over there. That homeowner would have to do it. Is that correct?
No, in this particular case, it's a resident on the street asking for the red curb. You could ask for red curb not directly in front of your home. It just has to go through the analysis, especially if it's amount of red curb that is going to actually impact parking.
Let me clarify, I'm sorry. For just for the 3 feet apron,
Correct.
2607 cannot request it on behalf of 2606, is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. Yes, they
Okay,
can.
so we can't like pivot
No.
and say, okay.
But the other one being requested, because you can request red curb anywhere on the street if you have a reason you want to petition for it, right?
Correct,
I think we've dealt with some that go quite a ways away from churches and stuff, I think.
correct.
And then is there any, and 2606, have they expressed any interest for or against?
No,
No response?
no. And we, like I said, we notified the residents, including 2606, and have not heard anything from them in either support or denial.
Okay. Is it possible to have a conversation with a council member to speak to 2606 about just getting the 3 feet apron? That might solve a lot of,
2606 is not the
sorry.
requesting party.
I know.
2607 is.
I know, but I
And
mean,
2607 doesn't have an issue on parking on their side of the street.
Yeah, it's on the
The
cross
requested
and
red
the
curb
issue.
is
No, I
on the
understand.
opposing side.
So,
I understand,
so the
sir.
red curb,
I understand, sir. The question I have is, can we ask the council member to have a conversation with 2606 about doing the 3 feet apron? Even though it came from 2607, because obviously 2607 cannot make the request on behalf of 2606.
Correct.
So could we ask the council member to have a conversation with the neighbor? And that would seem
We
like it
can
would solve
relay that. We can
everything,
relay that
right?
information to the council member, and yes, at
I'm
his point,
confused.
he
Why,
can
why
do
do
so.
we, asking about the red curb around a driveway that,
So we're talking about two separate things, Commissioner Simpson.
okay.
There's a red curb.
Right.
And there's a 3 feet apron. A red curb requires a little bit more,
Right, and that's the thing that's
Study?
before us tonight.
I understand.
Okay.
But I'm generalizing, it feels like folks are not supportive of the red curb. So one idea could be to go back to the council member and say, hey, have a conversation with the resident. You know, maybe that neighbor goes over there and says, hey, do you object to this? Can you request this? I'm having a hard time. It would be the neighborly thing to do.
Yeah,
Then it's kind of a
we
win-win.
can definitely do that. My concern from that recommendation is if any of that red curb encroaches into the existing curb space, then that will prevent even the vehicle that was legally parked there from being able to park
Sure, 'cause
anymore.
this would be a
And
certain
therefore,
number
it
of
would
feet.
still eliminate the parking. That is very, very tight in terms of its location. The vehicle we mentioned was about 14.3 feet. The existing parking that's there is 14.8 feet. So even a foot of red curb would eliminate that parking space
Oh, wow.
completely.
Wow, okay. That's helpful.
Do we have any further comment, discussion, or questions? We don't have any public comment. We've seen the e-comments. Do we have any sort of motion? Commissioner Glass,
Make a motion that we concur with the staff recommendation.
which is to deny the request.
Deny the request.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bajaj,
Yes.
Commissioner Funbashi,
Yes.
Commissioner Nafisi,
Abstain.
Commissioner Glass,
Yes.
Chair Simpson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Give me,
Yes.
may I ask a related question of the staff?
I think so.
Okay, I have had a talk with my new councilman, Scott, about parking in North Redondo. And part of, and I've said, I think we need something to do with more parking or to create more parking somehow. But I have a question. When somebody comes in, a builder, to request, to build on a lot, is there some consideration as to the size of the apron that they're allowed? Are they allowed to do away with an existing parking spot, for example, if they put in a double wide apron instead of a single wide that might have previously been there? Does that go through us, or is there or does that get simply approved by building people?
Not that we can discuss a whole lot of it tonight because again, it's not on the agenda, but the answer is yes, they may ask for the wider driveway. Sometimes it goes through the planning commission if it's a project that needs planning commission level review. If not, it goes through the community development staff, which will then discuss that with public works engineering staff before that final approval is provided. And yes, it is one of the things that we look at in terms of what kind of impact it has on parking.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was some visibility into this.
Yes.
Okay, I guess that takes us to item J2, which is a spotlight on the sanitary sewer management plan.
Thank you, Chairperson Simpson. I am going to introduce Seila Putukuchi. She is our civil engineer. She was promoted a couple of years ago, Seila? Your promotion?
Promoted last year.
Last year. Seems like forever because she's been here forever. Seila works very, I'm not going to say exclusively, but she works very closely on both our sewer and storm drain systems, and she's got some great insights she's going to share with you on our sewer systems. So that, I'll turn it over to Seila.
Thank you, Ted, and thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. Today I'm going to give a quick overview of our sanitary system management plan. It's also called SSMP and the Sewer Enterprises Fund. Just want to give you an overview of our city sewer system. We have approximately 212 miles of the gravity sewer pipes and force mains and 16 sewer pump stations, and all the pump stations equipped with the SCADA system. It is supervisory control and data acquisition system. It can communicate with the pumps operation system to the city staff. So if any overflows or anything happens, so staff can react quickly. And we have about 2,500 manholes to clean the system and 2 siphons in the our sewer system. Since city has over 100 miles of the sewer, it's controlled by the State Water Board. In 2006, State Water Board adopted a new waste discharge requirement for the sanitary sewer, and this referred as the 2006-0003 DWQ. And also they adopted a more stringent rule for the monitoring and reporting the sewer spills. It's in 2008. These required to develop and adopt a sanitary sewer management plan, and also we need to report all the sewer spill to the State Water Board. That started us to think about the sewer system management plan. In 2019, city adopted a first SSMP plan, and in 2010 we updated sections of the SSMP to include more programs in that one. In 2015, city conducted an audit to the SSMP program, existing SSMP programs, and those findings were incorporated into the SSMP, and we had a current SSMP document that effective from the 2015. So anybody wants to read, feel free. It's already in our website, so it will provide all the programs and all the measures we need to take for the sewer system. According to the state order, every 5 years, city has to revisit their SSMP program and need to recertify. Due to COVID, we could not do. On the 2020, we did the recertification of our SSMP program in 2022. During that, since we adopted a sanitary sewer management SSMP, cities significantly tried to improve our sewer system and with adopted programs, we reduced the sewer overflows. In the next slide, you can see the significant drop in our sewer overflow. We only have, like a past 6 years, we only have 1 sewer overflow in the system. I want to give you a quick overview of the implemented programs in our SSMP. One is we did the CCTV inspection. We run the camera throughout our city system to identify the system conditions and created a rehabilitation program that act as a guide to our CIP program for the following years. And we had a root control program. It's chemically applied chemical application to kill the roots within the sewer system that causes the blockage. And we implemented the iWater system. That's a computerized software system track the maintenance. So our sewer crew can see how often they can maintain our system. It integrated with our GIS program. And we also implemented the FOG program. It's a fat, oil, and grease. That's one of the biggest reasons for the sewer spills in the restaurant industry. So we educate the restaurants, and we implemented that program. And we inspect every year. Next one is we installed 47 smart manholes throughout the city. Those are the high flow areas close to the pump stations, and we also call hotspots where tendency to have the sewer spills. The signal will come to any time the sewer reaches certain elevation or certain flow. We get the communication to our sewer staff and maintenance staff, and they can react quickly. And we upgraded the scatter system throughout our pump station, so it created a effective communication within the system, so we can monitor how the pumps are performing. And we did the training to the staff, fire department, and the police dispatch regarding the sewer overflow. What is the procedure they need to follow to contain the flow and the reporting process. And we also implemented the CIPP lining program within the city. This is the trenchless technology, also called queued in place system, that line the sewer mains. As I mentioned, like some of our sewer system are like 100 years old, so we do need to maintain those ones. So CIPP program is one of the effective way, less disturb to the public.
Next slide, Lauren.
Next slide, I'm going to give to Jesse because it deals with the money.
So in line with what Selah has mentioned in the SSMP programs, investing in the technology and investing in the maintenance side, we've also heavily invested on the CIP projects that have to do with our sewer. As you see, to the tune of $25 million since 2017, we spent on different pump stations, whether they're new pump stations, whether they're a rehab of certain sections of our system. The Alta Vista pump station was just recently, will be going to council next month for accept and complete. The Ringe pump station was completed a few years ago. That is the largest pump station within the city. And as you see in bold, you have the Harbor Patrol Dock Basin 2 pump out station, which is currently under construction. And the Portofino and Yacht Clubway, which is the largest in monetary value, was recently awarded and should have construction started in the next couple of months. And then over the next couple of years, you see the Morgan Sewer Pump Station and the CCTV inspection that will be done again to the tune of about $4.5 million. So we've invested heavily in the capital, which has really assisted with keeping those sewer spillages down in line with all the other programs that have been implemented. So just wanted to show you kind of the investment that the city has put into the sewer system. Here's just a photo of the Ringe pump station on the left that was completed, I believe was it 2020, 2021?
2020.
2020, and the Alta Vista pump station, which has just been completed. This slide just shows you an overview of the sewer enterprise fund. This is how the city charges for the sewer and assessed on the properties. Obviously, this is collected through the county assessment on the property taxes. They're fixed fees for single family and multifamily fees, complexes. The only one that is based off of water usage is the commercial side, the non-residential. All in all, we bring in about $5.5 to $6 million in sewer fees, and that helps obviously invest into the system. It helps pay for the personnel that deals with the sewer lines and the sewer system. So just a snapshot. This is based. It can only be changed by ordinance. This would have to go out to the residents to be adjusted. Yes. I'll hand it back to Selah.
Yeah. So last one I want to last one I want to discuss is the new order state issued in the 2022. That will be effective on June 5th, 2023. This will supersede all the orders so far we have. That include to update our SSMP with a new ordinance, and it has a stringent rules on the sewer overflow and required to update our SSMP. Actually, we need to do the complete audit and the gap analysis within the existing SSMP and need to update in the next 2 years. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a question.
Commissioner Bouchard, I think was this.
Thank you for that. That was very informative. I almost wish Commissioner Min was here because he's always looking for something non-traffic to discuss at these meetings. But so that's really impressive. The overflow, what is it? The spillage? Yeah, the overflow rate of only 1 in the last 6 years. That's really impressive. And to see how this number has consistently dropped, it's very inspiring to see this sort of downward trend. I don't know much about this, but some years we might have had 2 or 3. Is that pretty normal for a city of our size or the complexity of our system?
Yeah, I mean, I can help with that a little bit. Sailor, you have?
Go ahead.
In my experience, because I have overseen sewer systems in the past as well, anywhere from 3 to even 6 or 7 is more of a normal state.
Okay.
I think a lot of the measures that we do here at the city are very, very preventative and are helping this condition tremendously, which is why it's understated when you see that graph and you see 1 in 5 to 6 years. It's phenomenal from a staff perspective and really attributes a lot to what the staff has done, what the staff has prepared and planned for improvements on a regular basis. But even something as simple as what Selah mentioned, the little monitors inside of each of the manholes, that system in itself is huge. It's revolutionary because it's telling it where normal flows are within the pipe. Anytime there's a backup downstream and the water starts to fill up within the manhole, it's an indicator that says there's a problem downstream. Come out and look at it. That in itself is very preventative from overflows and spills. The root mitigation, the foaming that we do to dissolve those roots. Roots are constrictive in terms of the flow and the material that's in those lines. They could cause backups themselves because they're constricting the amount of flow. Fats and grease, which are really introduced a lot more from restaurants than they are from individual homes. Those could be very impactful to our sewer systems. The fact that we have a program that goes out there, monitors, videotapes, tests this on a regular basis is really the key to it. So, the fact that it's 1 in 5 or 6 years, it really is huge kudos to the staff that's overseeing a lot of the engineering and operations side of the house for maintaining the sewer lines.
That's very impressive. Thank you for that. I do have one of those manholes in my backyard, so keep up the good work.
2,500.
Other questions or comments or thoughts?
I just had 2 questions. From the presentation, SCADA or SCADA, what does that stand for?
You want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's on.
Oh, it's on.
No, it's off. There you go.
Okay. SCADA system is like a communication system. Whenever the pumps, it's made mainly for the pump station, it's connected to the panel. Whenever there is a pumps fail or any failure to the pump system, it remotely communicate with the our SCADA program, and it will send the signal to the pump station operators. It identifies the issues with the electric, if a power is outage or one of the pumps got failed or any blockage, we constantly monitor the SCADA system and we'll go and repair those ones.
Is that an acronym like
Yes,
sewer
that's-
condition? What are,
Supervisory control and data acquisition.
Gotcha, okay.
It connected with the.
Yeah. I think I missed that. The other question I had was just reflective of the costs of these new pump stations, like when we look at Ringe at 2.6 million in 2020 and Alta Vista 3.6 in May 23, and also looking at then now the proposed upcoming Portofino and Yacht Club Way sewer pump stations. I know that obviously each of these pumps would be sized differently based on the volume water that has to be processed, right? But how much is inflation and or some of the economic impacts? And I realize too, the two down by the harbor, those are actually two separate pumps, right? The one at Yacht Club Way and the one at Portofino, and there's a hotel tied to one of them, right? How much is it economics or the size of I'm trying to get a sense of the inflationary impact on our costs for things like this.
Both.
Okay.
One, obviously the ones down at Portofino Yacht Club Way, a lot of the costs have to do with dewatering that needs to be done and different permits from the water board and regulations that happen. But just on the engineer's estimate, when that was proposed, we still had to appropriate an additional $1.6 million after we received bids because our engineer's estimate was short about $1.5 million. So we're still seeing a lot of the inflationary pressures that have just happened over the last couple of years.
Well, and that's what really jumped out at me when it's like $9 million for two. That's still 4.5 for each one. You know, I was just trying to understand the size on them. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I just think it was a very informative, excellent report. I really appreciate you giving it. And very, very, very interesting. I guess we need a motion to receive and file.
I'll make the motion to receive and file this presentation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Is there any public comment or any? No public, so there couldn't be.
There's no public comment, no e-comments.
Okay. Well, let's do a roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Fudabashi?
Yes.
Commissioner Nafisi?
Yes.
Commissioner Glass?
Yes.
Chair Simpson?
Yes. And again, excellent and informative report. And we now are on J3, a discussion regarding the fiscal year 2023 to 24. I guess we get to see the presentation, and then if we have suggestions, offer them.
We do, and actually, I'm going to introduce someone that already introduced himself. Jesse Ray is our Capital Projects Program Manager. He's ready to go ahead and present this for you.
Good evening.
Doug, can you please put up the presentation for this item?
There we go. And if any of you watched the council meeting on Tuesday, these slides will look familiar from the city manager's presentation. Obviously, this is a budget overview. This is not necessarily CIP focused. It's on the proposed fiscal year 23-24 operating budget and the CIP, 5-year CIP. Usually, the city manager would come around to all the commissions before the proposed budget is released. Because of a condensed schedule this year due to some GASB rules that kind of delayed mid-year, delayed kind of the calendar this year, the city manager was not able to reach all the commissions before the budget was released as mandated by the city charter on May 16th. So therefore, we're coming to you after the release of the proposed budget to receive your input, feedback that would now go to the city council, no longer the city manager, on your thoughts or any recommendations that you might have on that proposed budget. Next slide, please. So you see the proposed budget includes the city manager's message, the core budget, which is basically the personnel, maintenance, operations, everything that makes up the core of the city budget. Decision packages, which are modifications to the core budget. This year, there's 77 recommended decision packages. And also will be included in the upcoming public hearings, the budget response reports, which are questions that the council has for staff. Next slide, please. So this is an overview of the general fund budget. Obviously, the city budget is composed of many funds, restricted enterprise funds, but general fund is usually the fund that is more left up for discretion. So that's why we're kind of focusing on this one. You'll see there's an estimated end fund balance of $2.4 million for this year, with the proposed core revenues, expenditures, and the decision packages that both include revenues and ongoing expenditures and one-time expenditures. The end of the year will have a estimated fund balance of $1.7 million. If you listened to the city manager last week, he mentioned this is the first year in many years that we have a structurally balanced budget, which is a very exciting thing to actually have a balanced budget where you don't have to put one-time money towards balancing that. Next slide. Overview of the capital budget. We have 22-24 CIP appropriations of $89.1 million. 67.4 are carryover fundings of previously approved budget projects. 21.7 million in new appropriations, and this includes previously approved projects as well as 5 new proposed projects. And just a snapshot, fiscal year 22-23, we're estimating about $21.5 million in CIP expenditures. This is by far the most output that we've had in a long time. 20 projects estimated to be completed, an additional 21 designed and or awarded. Just to put that into perspective in terms of the expenditures, last year we ended with $13 million in expenditures. Next slide. So these next couple slides, I know it's a little hard to read. They're kind of small. I pulled out decision packages that were just public works related, just to, for any conversation purposes that the commission may have. One theme that you'll notice, I won't read them all, but one theme that you'll notice is a lot of money towards reasons due to inflation, right? So a lot of costs have gone up. So we're putting recommended appropriations towards increasing costs for vehicles, for supplies, for permitting costs, increased fuel costs, I think is no surprise to anyone. So that's a theme that you'll see presented in a lot of the public works decision packages. Next slide. And a couple of decision packages that deal with personnel. And that kind of deal with this commission directly. One is the reclassification of a transportation engineer position to a principal transportation engineer. I think you would note that we've had troubles filling that transportation engineer. It's been open for about a year with no success. And then another personnel decision package is reclassifying one of our part-time office assistants to senior administrative specialists. This position helps greatly with all the traffic requests that have come up and which have increased tremendously over the last couple of years. Next slide. That concludes my short presentation and kind of synopsis of the proposed 23-24 budget. And again, any questions and any feedback and recommendations, we could take note of that, and I leave it to you.
Before we turn it over to you, Chair, Doug, if we can go back to the general fund budget summary table. Slide presentation, I think midway back one. Yep, that one right there. Thank you. I thought Jesse was going to go ahead and cover this, but I'm going to go ahead and add it in. I just want to note that the city manager recommended to the city council that the total estimated year-end fund balance after recommendation, that 1.7 million, that be retained because there will be negotiations and discussions with bargaining groups from the employees. And that was his recommendation to the city council. And that value is to say that we've already set aside $1 million from the general fund towards the capital improvement program. So that annual set aside that we do for the CIPs of $1 million has already been set aside. That 1.7 million is truly monies that the city manager is asking to keep set aside for the negotiations and conversations that are going to be coming up.
So potentially for raises is covering.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah, and if you read the first paragraph of the city manager's message, the number one, personnel was number one on his focus for the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget.
Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts, Commissioner Nafisi?
Two questions. Well, one statement, I'm so excited to see the capital improvement program search engine, kind of nerding out on all the different projects that are going on. So it's nice to see the updates of the projects too, because I feel like people always come to me and ask me an update. I'm like, I don't know the update on this particular project. So it's very nice to be able to turn to that. But the second question I had was, did we manage to include this capital improvement project, capital improvement funds for the Franklin Park awning that's been down for like a couple of years? Do you know if that got included in there?
There is recommended funding for Franklin Park, the trellis, if that's what we're
Is that what
speaking
it
about.
is? Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
And there's also a budget response report for additional improvements at Franklin Park,
Okay.
which is being prepared for the city council as well.
And when will that, so these budget recommendations, the packages, will those be included in here?
They
I
are
can see,
included,
'cause-
they are included in the current budget, so they are.
I'm sorry. Will it be included in the improvement program search engine? So I
If
can,
it becomes a capital improvement program that the city council will approve, then yes,
Okay.
after the fiscal year budget is adopted, then it'll be incorporated into that.
fantastic.
Other questions or thoughts? Seems to me to be a very sensible, reasonable budget, but it's the city manager's job to present. I'm not sure, do we have input beyond that we would like to offer? I'm not sure exactly what we would do as a commission.
Well, that's essentially why the item is presented to you tonight, is to solicit any input from the commission directly. And if there aren't any, from the commission and something comes up tonight, tomorrow, anytime before the council adopts the budget, at that point, you as an individual, as a resident, have the
Absolutely.
opportunity to comment to them as well.
Well, again, from my perspective, this seems to be a very thoughtful, competent budget that deals with the circumstances that we anticipate about as well as can be done. So I'm not sure, I don't have any particular additions to offer myself, but perhaps someone else does. I don't see any. So shall we, we need a motion to, I guess, receive and file. And should we add to receive and file and, do we want to say something to the city manager that we like the budget, we think it's appropriate? Is that?
You can tell the council that you support the budget as proposed by the city manager, whatever.
Yeah, do we want to
you
do
decide
that?
to do.
Is that what we want to do?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Somebody want
I'll
to
make a
that
motion that we receive and file the budget for the proposed budget for fiscal year 23-24 with an acknowledgement to the work that staff put into it. And I guess, because we're not approving it, but I mean,
And so we support the city manager.
and yes, we support it as presented.
All right, is there a second? Commissioner Glass seconds. Let's do a roll call, please. Again, there's no public to ask for comments, so we won't. I'm sure there weren't any e-comments on this one, were there?
Let me double check, but there wasn't earlier. There are no Zoom panelists to participate.
Okay,
And
all right, so let's do the roll call.
all right,
No comment, no
and there's no
e-comments?
e-comments.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, for the record. Commissioner Bajaj,
Yes.
Commissioner Funabashi,
Yes.
Commissioner Nafisi,
Yes.
Commissioner Glass,
Yes.
Chair Simpson.
Yes.
The $100 million city.
So that brings us to item K. I think in my recollection, this is the fastest time that we've ever gotten to member items and referrals to staff. So I see Commissioner Glass has something he'd like to refer to
Okay,
staff.
over the last week or so, actually 2 weeks, I've had the opportunity to use the app to recommend some repairs to the street. And I want to say that the Public Works group has been very responsive.
Yes.
And made the repairs, and they look really good.
That's been my experience as well.
My thanks to them.
Yes,
I got
Commissioner
a couple
Nafisi.
things. So a few meetings back, I requested for you guys to take a look at the slide at Lilienthal Park. It was broken. Do you know if we got an update on that, if it got fixed?
No, I don't have an update on that yet.
Would we be able to have an update next time, maybe?
We can probably email that update to you.
Wonderful. And then, so I see the crossing guard every morning at Beryl and Maria, and she has a lot of words for the city and how they mitigate traffic on that corner. For some reason, cars tend to go up Maria and pass the stop light because they just don't see it for whatever reason. And she says that she's reached out to you, and I think she's reached out to the police department as well for some recommendations. I was just wondering, is there anything else that we can do at that corner to help people see that stoplight? Because people run it frequently, and there's a lot of children around.
That's Beryl and,
Maria.
so that's
Yeah.
past the school,
It's like at the school. People just run that stoplight. And I
right in
think
front of the school, or is it?
primarily, yeah, I think the reason is because there's so many stop signs. People think it's like a stop sign situation, and they'll just like roll right
Going
through
east?
it.
Going east up the hill?
You're going east,
East
yeah.
up the hill,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
isn't it, I mean, just past the school building? right?
Correct, yeah, correct.
Right at the corner, the east corner.
Yeah.
So I was out doing valet a couple weeks with her, and there was a lot of people who ran the light. So I don't know if we could think about what else. I know we have a flashing stop sign. I don't know what the options could be.
Yeah, just as a note to FYI on it, one, I've not received any comments from the crossing guard, nor have I heard from the police department
That's helpful.
that they've sent any
She's very
comments.
determined,
We'll
but she
ask-
yelled at you, quote unquote. I was like, okay, I'm
Yelled at
sorry.
me, okay,
Well,
well, that's good.
I was like, I was just trying to help.
Maybe she's confused as to who she's supposed to.
Maybe.
Okay, well, that's also
but
helpful.
Irrelevant of that, I mean, we'll talk to the police department, the traffic division, and see what concerns they may have. It is an area that's under construction, as you know, because right now,
Is there still more construction over there? It's all done.
Done, isn't it?
No, the signals are still on temporary.
the signals are on temporary, and
Oh,
Lauren,
maybe that's the problem.
And Cal Water is still replacing the main on Maria.
correct.
When you replace the signal, is it going to be a hangover signal or up and down? Okay, maybe that's probably going to solve
It's an
some of
old
this.
signal.
That
It
will
didn't
be,
make
that will be a signal mast arm for the east-west movement on
Okay.
Beryl,
Okay.
not on the Maria side. But
Okay.
yes, that
That
is
will
going
be
to be
helpful.
proposed. Yes.
Okay.
That would make it more.
Right now, in the temporary condition, there is no
Got it.
mast
That's
arm. It's
probably
just
why this
on
is
the
happening.
primary and
Okay,
secondary.
all right, I'll try to share that with her.
It also may be something that we need to refer to the police to look at, but.
Yeah, on a secondary note, there was a referral from the city council. It is being assessed by our engineering team to consider reverting that back to an always stop rather than a signalized intersection. That is being currently assessed as well, just so you're aware.
How would we do that?
How would we do that?
I mean, what was the rationale behind that?
It is, as you mentioned, it's a signal with a whole lot of stop signs before it and after it. So should
It
it
just doesn't make
remain a
sense to have it
signal,
there?
or can it convert back to an always stop instead? Is
Okay.
there enough volume? Is
Yeah.
there enough issues to continue to preserve it as a signal versus going back to an always stop?
Okay, thank you.
And they've always had a crossing guard for
Yeah.
10-plus years
Oh,
that I
yeah.
can remember. Yeah, 20
it's a
years.
dangerous corner.
Yeah.
Okay, a few more things for Franklin Park. The basketball rim, I know that a request went into the app for it to be fixed. Just
It
wanted
has
to-
been fixed.
Awesome. What about the ladder to the park? Do you know if the ladder to the play structure, if that's gotten fixed?
The one that's actually boarded now, no, we have not been able to get that part yet.
Okay, so is this something on order?
Correct.
Okay, do you have a timeline of when we might get that fixed?
I do not know.
Okay, and a broken swing that I think it was a toddler swing and it got replaced to be like a adult swing. So the community's a little upset that it got replaced. But it was like a baby swing almost, and now it's an adult swing, so the younger kids can't swing on the swing. So I don't know if that's I don't know why, maybe because it was broken, that's what you had.
Yeah, I'll ask our staff and see what's going on with that.
Okay, last thing, I promise. I had emailed you regarding the Keep Clear on Paulina. Is there an update on that? Or is that something we can talk about off Paulina and Beryl? Keep Clear there, remember?
Yes, no, that's still being assessed by our
Okay.
engineer.
That's all I got.
No, I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I have two items. One, who, Ted, does the, like, urban forestry enforcement of tree trimming and so forth? And the reason I ask is there's a tree at 1920 Marshall Field, and it's in the front yard of the house, and the tree goes over the sidewalk at a very shallow height. And one of our neighbors actually was walking a dog and was looking down and banged her head so hard into the tree that she got dizzy, and her daughter had to come and help take the dog home. So, and it's a, and so I can send you a picture of it, but it's a very low hanging tree. But how is that enforced in the city?
In a couple of ways. Marshall Field, in that area, there's a few places where we don't have landscape parkways. So we have to look and see if that tree is actually on private property or if it's in the public right of way.
It is on, it's behind their fence on private property in their front yard.
If it's on private property, then we work with code enforcement. Code enforcement works with the property owners.
Got it.
And then they request that they go ahead and do the trimming and.
Is that something that right now I can ask
Yes.
you to pass on to code enforcement, please? Yeah, so
If
it's
you got
one,
any more details and or pictures that you want to email to us, that'll be great. We'll send that over.
perfect. And once again, the location was 1920 Marshall Field. And then secondly, I took a survey which Metro released that was sent out about alignments and preferred routes for bicycle infrastructure improvements and kind of like a active transportation grant or something like that that's coming in that will lead from, I believe, from like around where Beach City's health district is up towards the transit center. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Did you see that survey as well?
did.
So what happens now with that survey? Once the survey goes through, will they tally the results and then come back to Public Works or the city council? Like, do you know what happens once this survey is complete?
No, we don't know exactly what their next steps are going to be, whether they're going to be discussing that just with their board, trying to identify future funding for improvements or modifications, or if that's a survey that's going to be bringing back discussions to the city first to see if there's more that the city would like to do versus not. But we can talk to Metro staff and find out what their next steps are going to be.
So the routes that they showed on the survey were not necessarily like pre-discussed, with Public Works ahead of time or anything like that.
Unless this is part of the project that is looking to have connectivity to a proposed bike facility along Redondo Beach Boulevard, down Ripley.
Yes.
Making that connectivity.
Yes, that one.
That is a project that we are very much involved. We're actually a partner with Metro on
Got
that
it.
particular project. So they are doing the design of that project. They're going through the preliminary engineering for that project. And if that's the project, then that's all part of the Q&A that they need to provide, to receive input on for the future improvements. But we are integrated into that. As a matter of fact, Andy, I believe, is our primary point of contact in that project.
That's great. That's very reassuring to hear that.
And so
at
is
least-
Beach Cities, correct? Because that's part of their, are they doing a proposed bike plan over on the Torrance?
They are not part of the project. The project itself is partnered between the city of Redondo Beach, city of Lawndale, Metro, and LA County.
But Beach City's Health.
But they're doing a
District
bike corridor.
has something.
They are, that's a different project.
It's a different
They received
project.
their own funding from Metro
Oh,
to
so,
do that
okay.
connectivity.
That's
Oh,
going to be on
interesting.
Diamond, right, I think?
It's going to be, it's actually the existing area that's there today, right? It's closed off to vehicles on the east end of Diamond. It comes back up on Flagler on the Torrance side of it. That whole back area, essentially
behind
the
the
south
Beach
side
City's
of Beach
Health
City's Health District is split between the city of Torrance and the city of Redondo Beach. We are supportive of their project moving forward. I think Beach City's Health District has had some hesitations from the city of Torrance in moving that forward. But the portion that's within Redondo Beach, they are working with us to move forward on that.
That came before the commission.
Yeah, we discussed this, I think,
discussed it
last
and
year,
supported-
2 years
yeah,
ago.
right.
It did, but it is in two different jurisdictions, so they have to have
Yeah,
approval from the
of course.
two
And
jurisdictions.
is that Beach Cities project bike path does it show connectivity with this route? I had assumed that they were going to touch in some way.
It'll show that because, yes, they are trying to integrate and make connectivity
Right.
with all these bike paths.
Okay. But different funding sources.
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Any other comments for staff?
No, not for me. Thank you.
I have a vague recollection at one point when it became sort of an issue that we needed more enforcement in certain areas, that we actually had someone from the police department regularly attending these meetings. Has that just fallen by the wayside? Is that something that has got any value to doing it? Or are we not talking that much about traffic?
We don't like the police officers. We don't talk to them.
All we talk about is traffic.
No, on the contrary, actually, we've had the conversations with the traffic division or traffic section of the police department. And we will talk to the lieutenant and sergeant for that area when we have something that's going to come to the commission that may solicit their input and/or
that they should-
request some additional, information from
Might
enforcement.
invite them, in other words, yeah. Perfect, makes perfect
So,
sense.
we'd love them to be here, but they are very limited on their resources. And their traffic division typically works the normal daytime hours. They don't work nighttime hours.
Right.
But we'll work with them on asking for someone.
But only when it's appropriate. I mean,
Correct.
That makes perfect sense. Yes, Commissioner
One
Glass.
second chance. I think I've asked the question before, I'm not sure. 182nd Street in Inglewood, southwest corner. There is a traffic light there, but there are actually two traffic lights on the same mast. Why?
Because that is a temporary traffic signal pole. Because of a knockdown that occurred, there was
okay.
a full traffic signal pole with a mast arm that had a signal head on the shaft of the pole and a signal head on the mast arm itself.
Got it.
Because of the knockdown, temporary poles are typically without the signal arms that go out into the street. And we prefer to have 3 traffic signals for each of the directions. 2 are mandatory and required by the state. The third is the backup in case one of them goes out. That's why you have the 2 on that side and then the third one's on the
I
other
think
side.
maybe you ought to leave it the way it is. It really gets your attention now.
Does.
Okay, I guess we might ask for a motion to adjourn. Would someone care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I think Commissioner, okay, that'd be fine. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show, I think this is the shortest meeting I can recall us having.
The one we had.
The trend up, break your record every time. That's great.
It was 2 months ago.
We spend
had
more
one
money and we do it in
that
less
was
time.
Under an hour.
I don't,
We had one under an hour, I think, 2 months ago.
okay. I mean,